Hey everybody, I'm Jody Vance.
And I'm George Affleck.
And today is a new era for UnSpun podcast as we partner newly with this incredible new media outlet in British Columbia called
Sitka Media.ca.
Gotcha. It is time for
Unspun.
I'm just throwing curveballs at you like
We,
crazy, George.
we are having the tech things we're having today. You'll never see them. Well, you just saw one, but
The ghosts in the machine.
God, it's one of those days. One of those days. Anyways, let's get on to what's going on in the world. And Sitka Media, pretty exciting, very exciting to have a partner like this. We originally were founded with the Orca Media. When we launched, they created us with us, and then they disappeared or they got bought out, and we didn't go with them. And now we are joining Sitka Media, which is great.
All of these seasons later, our phones rang and we answered and said, "What is Sitka Media?" So let's just quickly off the top let people understand why we're partnering with this new media outlet. The new McLean K, we used to always joke about our editor in chief, McLean K, is now Jared Yeager. Jared Yeager, if you follow him on social media, he's an up and coming journalist. He has done some great work. In fact, you'll see that he has done some work for the Western Standard, which made some people go, oh, wait, that's media that possibly has an agenda. Jared doesn't work there anymore for the simple fact that he has no agenda and his journalistic chops are sound when it comes to that. He stood firm, let's say, in his belief that there should be no narrative pushing in media, which is why you and I and Unspun really do find ourselves with a home at sitkamedia.ca.
Mhm.
A couple of their mandates, just so our listening and viewing audience understand the sort of the mission statement, if you will, is basically that we are collectively mature enough to confront our past while focusing on the future. That is a great mission statement, I think. That people of British Columbia deserve better from media. There are all obviously great media outlets here in BC, but so many people have tuned out or are collecting their news in places and spaces that don't have checks and
Podcasts.
balances. So yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
well, yes, and yeah, crazy podcasts. But yeah, so yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, no. I mean, jump in. It's you and I
Yeah,
having
no,
this
it's
conversation.
I think that, well, I mean, the traditional media, which we both came from, is definitely challenged, and not a criticism, but podcasts are kind of where it's at. And but it takes a team. You and I have been producing this together for a couple of years now on our own. It's a lot of work, so I'm looking forward to the support of Sitka Media to help us, I think, push this show out to more people because I think I like our show.
I like our show
I'm
too.
biased, and I
I
think
mean,
we cover a lot of things, and I certainly have never, I think even as a politician, held back my opinions, and that worked for me and against me quite often. But I find I'm more comfortable on doing the podcast than I did as a politician.
I think you and I are very different in the positions that we come from, in how we look at the world, how we think about the world, but we definitely very often find common ground, you and I. And the conversations that we have are respectful and a lot of the times we look back and I have to say, you were right, George. But every now and then, I'm also kind of right too. So along the way, we engage with our listener, with our viewers. So we're going to do that. And the top of every podcast is not going to be all about Sitka Media every time. We're just letting people know this is new. They've decided that they want to partner with us. We have said, yes, let's do it. So you will find us at sitkamedia.ca. Let's dive into what has been happening this week. I
Right.
would like to start with I was wrong. Okay, I did not love the idea of a royal visit to the US.
Ah,
I was vocal on my social media. Please don't go to the White House and, bend the knee to the current administration or
mhm.
somehow anoint it. Like, ugh.
Yeah.
But oh my goodness, didn't King Charles III go in and actually stand up for Canada?
Yeah. Yeah, he did. I don't know if Trump caught most of it, but I think most went over his head. But I'm torn still. I mean, I think he did a great job, and that the people who wrote those that that address really clever writers.
For
Um,
Congress.
Lots
Yeah,
of good stuff, like the Congress. And but I still, and I think I brought this up in the podcast, harking back to Hitler and Chamberlain, and you make this decision. I'm not saying, don't get me wrong, that Trump is Hitler, but I'm just saying that he's started a war. Many would argue that is this a good time to be going and acknowledging in the way this level? And I think that's still a good question to ask. And
for sure.
I think, as you know, hindsight will be 2020. Some argue that this is a pivotal moment in a positive way, but only time will tell, as they say, the cliche of journalism. Uh,
Only time will
so,
tell. But I did love the fact that at the state dinner last night, we record on Thursday. So on Wednesday night's state dinner, King Charles III actually stood during the soup course to remind everybody there, and in particular the President of the United States, that he is not just the King of England, he is also the King of Canada.
mhm.
And I don't think Trump knew that. It's wild. We could talk about the US ongoing. So let's sort of couch the rest of US stuff until the end of the podcast to make sure we have time for it because there's a lot happening in Canada. We'll start federally, as we often do, because Mark Carney, our prime minister, did address the media as promised about his fiscal plan. We get the regular update, and today he was talking about building and an investment on the ground in Oakville, Ontario, and taking questions from the media, which is always a good thing, I think. But let's get into some of the announcements that the Prime Minister has made this week when it comes to our fiscal future.
Yes, well, Canada strong, Canada strong, Canada strong, Canada strong. Okay, we get it, Mark. We get it. You got a new tagline. But they have created the Canada Strong. Is it fund? I forget what it's called. Anyways, it's a $25 billion in seed money. They're going to be looking for people to invest in it. I find this interesting. Obviously, we're in a deficit situation, and people are saying, "Well, how? What are you doing? You're taking money that we don't have to create a fund that we, you know." But to me,
Need when we don't have money.
yeah.
It's
But
confusing.
I know. But then we buy homes when we can't afford it. And, I think the ultimate question is, I think we've always been pointing, and I think it's interesting because I think even the conservatives have pointed to Norway, who have $1.8 trillion in their fund,
Yeah.
um, as an example of a great example. And so this fund at this point, on a very base level, we don't know the details, and more details are to come, is that's kind of what the goal is to have. And Alberta had the Heritage Fund, and they depleted it when they needed it. But I think the goal here, I hope, is transparency in government investing. Went and bought a pipeline without any kind of process, spent billions. Now we're getting a good ROI, but not a lot of details on that ROI. So in the future, any investments we make in significant projects, and in order to get big projects built, whether it be pipelines, whether it be windmills, whether it be highways, where this fund gets used, if there's transparency and we say, okay, we invested $1 and we're going to make $2, and the people who invest in that, which is all Canadians and more, if you want to put more in, potentially they're talking about that. So there's that, but there's also the fear that it could be like a brick share. And if those of us old enough remember the 1970s in BC, where they had these shares called brick, BCRCIC, we called it brick, but had a different, the actual spelling wasn't brick. Anyways,
Right.
disaster. Didn't, that was kind of the intention. Hey, let's get, British Columbians to invest and have a fund. But there was no seed money. And then it just
Right.
went to nothing. And
It fizzled.
I think I still have my brick shares. My
Oh, they
dad's,
used to be the things that were gifted at, Christmas time to
right.
kids, like instead of like the $20 note, you'd get
Yeah.
this thing, and then you're like, what is this? What is this? As a kid,
Yes.
I was a little on the young end for that. I just remember the piece of paper. On paper, Royal Bank of Canada came out with their report on investment, and for the
Hmm.
first time in 10 years, after 10 solid of investors leaving Canada, taking money and investing outside of Canada, this is the first year that investments are incoming, which I think is obviously a very good signal, but also speaks to all the people who were like, Mark Carney's just Justin Trudeau 2.0. Clearly, he is not. Uh,
Yeah, it's a big deal. If you've spend any time with even your own personal investment advisor, if you have one with your RSPs or whatever,
Yeah.
I would say for as long as I can remember, they have also, ugh, we're looking at funds that are not in Canada. Like, if you do you want to make money with your money, they were definitely Canada is not the place for most of these companies to invest. Um, that if that's changed, and I haven't talked to investment people specifically about that attitude, but there definitely has been for a long time that Canada was definitely not a place to invest. It was a waste of money, and that there was too much risk, not enough reward. And the ironic thing is, in order for investment to work in Canada, you need an investment. So
Yeah.
so that ball has to start rolling. That snowball has to start building. And so hopefully this is the tide.
That was a good pun. That
how many
snowball has to
different
start
analogies
building.
can I use? Yeah, how many different metaphors can I use today?
I think that was pretty damn good. Yeah. So Carney was speaking about that. He talked about big projects that would be on the table that will be built out. Talked specifically about building of moving energy, right? Moving our natural resources and doing so with full consultation with Indigenous peoples, as well as building in the most environmentally friendly way. Like he was hitting all of the checked boxes without really going into detail. But again, becoming a real communicator when it comes to one of the other concerns, not more than really a year ago was, is he really a politician? Well, clearly he is. He is rolling the official opposition leader in Pierre Poilievre in question period. It's embarrassing.
I don't know. I think it's quite entertaining. If you watch Question Period, which is a microcosm of what actually goes
Nerd,
on in government.
nerd.
Yes.
Hmm.
It is quite a show, and I do think that Poirier is still that's one of his strongest areas. He has all these cliches and things that he likes to use, and Carney's starting to use them too. The
Yeah,
strong Canada strong. He just brings that in with every conversation. So that's a very Polyev kind of approach to kind of find
right.
your line and just keep inserting it. What was Trudeau's? It was I can't remember. A stronger Canada and a cleaner Canada. Now,
I
how soon
can't
we
even
forget. It
remember.
had something to do with the
There
environment.
were T-shirts.
Yeah, yeah. It was like
Oh, I can't even remember. That's bad.
we'll
Let's bring
just
it to BC. Let's talk. Well, there's so much to talk about in British
yeah.
Columbia as well, like, um, and in Metro Vancouver. But Premier David Eby again, um, kind of on the back foot when it comes to a number of things, but trying to like put out there, we're going to try and save the Whitecaps without explaining anything, and Pavco being at the center of it because the issues with BC Place Stadium and the ownership group and what that looks like. And I mean, we could get into the hashtag save the caps and all of that on soccer. But before we even go down that path, Ryan Reynolds, Major League Baseball, David Eby saying that he is working with the prime minister on $50 billion in major projects. And now that list of prioritized projects has grown yet again.
Yeah, a lot of them are re-announcements of lists that he had before. And he talks about windmills and clean energy lots. I'm like, can we just build some pipelines? Get those pipelines going. There's the energy project. There is that discussion. The Cedar, what is Cedar something? The Northern Cedar Gateway or whatever it's called. So there are some big projects that have already been announced and already in the pipeline.
Oh,
But
George, that's
I
like
yeah.
three.
Oh my
Jared's going to
God.
start keeping score. Man.
Don't do shots. Don't do shots today.
Shot, shot,
Don't
shot,
do
shot.
shots. But he's got what 2.5 years, 3 years left on his mandate. Whether he can survive his own caucus is the question. But I think it's going to be interesting to see how this pans out. I just think that he doesn't have the skills. Sorry, David Eby, to pull off much big projects without. Because I don't think he has the support of his own government, his own caucus. That he can't control them. So when you can't,
Yeah,
we've talked about this all the time. If
every
you lose
time.
the support of your caucus, you lose control of government, and it's only a matter of time before EB's gone, and it's just time. And who knows how long he'll decide to stay on. But it reminds me of the NDP governments in the early whatever it was when there was like 5 premiers and over a 1 year span. Remember that? I mean,
Yeah.
you saw the writing on the wall, and they were just hanging on for as long as they possibly can, and went through several premiers. And till they finally got the boot, and they did what, they went down to 2 seats after that.
Yeah, it's another very unpopular note moved last night. I saw Rob Shaw was actually tweeting about this, um, about something very close to my heart, as I've had uh, now two parents in long-term care and needing long-term care for my elders. Can't imagine the people that are struggling to find a spot right now. I'm very lucky that my mom has been in her long-term care and happy there for going on 3 years now. I can't believe it. But there was a lot of hope that the need would be met by our government and by the announcements made by this government in British Columbia that there was a massive build of long-term care homes coming to the Fraser Health region, which is the fastest growing um,
Mhm.
municipality in British Columbia by leaps and bounds. And then in February, they quote unquote repaced the rollout of those builds, repaced, PACED. I was like, repaced. So slowed,
Repaste,
paused.
making
Like,
up
wait, I
words,
mean,
making
that's
up words as they
spin,
go
man.
along.
That
Yeah,
is spin. And then just yesterday, Bo and Ma announced that, in fact, those projects have been canceled. Like,
yeah.
what? What are we going to do? Like, boomers are aging out. There are going to be more and more and more people living much longer than perhaps their physical or cognitive capacity will allow them to live independently. And the whole idea of being able to have, care within your own home and aging in place, that's still quite messy in terms of how that works. I've had to pause a lot of my work to take care of my mom, even with long-term care support, because you got to be there. You got to, you know, it, it's a lot. And I just
Well,
feel like this is a massive step backwards, and it wouldn't matter to me. Again, this is under the there is no narrative here. It wouldn't matter if this was a conservative government or an NDP government or whatever we're calling whatever, left, right, center, mushy. We need places for senior care. We're failing.
yeah.
We're failing miserably, and to cancel this, I think, is a huge mistake.
But there's no cash, no cash, no building. You have to, to think that they have these kind of massive deficits and massive debt that they've accrued without any real focus on the future in this province. And then to make announcements about building massive amounts of housing, it's ridiculous. The only way you can build as a government is to build massive amounts of housing is, one, to get the hell out of the way,
Right.
get out of being so governmenty, or public-private partnerships. You have to be strategic, and whether that's tax, it's tax incentives, or, but actually building stuff is not like building housing and building this. This government should just not be doing it. It never works. If they
Right.
do it, it's usually terrible housing. And if they do it, it's usually really expensive. I mean, look at the cost of the bridges, and they're over budget on everything they do as a government. How can we possibly expect that they're going to be able to build housing at any kind of possible pro forma that is anything close to what the private sector can do? So, but this government absolutely does not want to work with the private sector. A perfect example that where it works so great is the Canada Line to YVR,
Yeah.
under budget, on time, and it works great. And it's a private car company who runs it. Here we are with the Expo line, the line that goes out to Surrey, over budget, late.
Right.
God knows how much it's going to cost in the end. It's so late. It's not 2029, 2030. When's it going to actually open? Nobody really knows.
Nobody
I
really
mean,
knows.
this is the kind of government we have now. So of course they canceled something that they can't actually build because they don't know how to do anything. They can't build anything properly in this province, and they've proven that again and again. So let the private sector loose, give them the incentives, and shit will get done.
Yeah. Oh, way to go. There's our E
Hmm.
for explicit.
Sorry,
It
everybody.
happens on no, it happens on Unspun Podcast. Get used to it. This is how we roll. Let's go municipally now. Because we can say that the provincial government has rammed into municipalities, you must build. And for some municipalities, they've taken that note
Right.
and done things. And in others, it's outrageously bad. Oh, you see my
Yeah.
zoom in there?
For those who aren't watching, Jody's camera's just become alive. The robots are taking over.
The robots are taking over our podcast today. It's just a
Yeah.
thing. I mean, Murphy's Law, right? But in Vancouver, we find ourselves going down a very reminiscent path. It feels like we're in the definition of insanity, like we're continuing to do the same thing over and over and over and over, expecting a different outcome. We're welcoming FIFA right this very second. We have FIFA uh, bigwigs, executives in Vancouver ahead of this massive tournament that we are taking part in this summer.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, our Major League Soccer franchise is at risk of being sold to a big US city. There's a huge Save the Whitecaps protest going on today. Meanwhile, the mayor's putting out, we need a Major League Baseball team here. Like it all just feels like crazy town.
Well, absolutely. The Major League Baseball is a distraction approach for us. Talk about spin. That's what that was. But he's also said, I can't offer anymore. He has come out and said that basically. He said, look, we've given them the space. We talked about,
Right.
incentives. They talked about the Peony Grounds as the racetrack's a beautiful place to put a stadium. Do we need another stadium downtown? I don't think so. Could we do with a new train that goes out, that goes to North Van, goes right past Hastings Park, put a giant, beautiful baseball, football, soccer, I don't know what kind of stadium, whatever sports stuff you guys do, stadium. I always am torn by this obsession with Major League Sports. I get it. Restaurants love it, but the amount of bending over backwards governments do, at some point you got to go, I'm sorry, we can't do it. It's kind of like the conversations we had when I was in office and the World Cup came to us, to the city of Vancouver, and they came to the province, and we said, we can't do it. We can't
Right.
afford it. It would be great. So we said no. And that was, they were like, what? You can't say no. So then
Well,
Edmonton said, we'll take it. And then fast forward a few years, suddenly we're taking it, and God knows how many billion
blank check.
dollars.
It's literally a blank check.
It's a blank check.
It's a blank check. And many of the, you mentioned restaurants, many of the restaurants close to the venues won't be even able to open because they're in the security zone.
Yeah.
It's
I
like
don't
the
know if I can get
whole
out of my house. Like I'm
right?
gonna be trapped for 2 weeks
That's
or two
true.
months. It's like, hello? Can
That's
somebody
true.
send me some food?
But looking at some of the renderings, like you said, is there room for another stadium downtown? As a sports broadcaster, I love the idea of more is better. But having also lived in Toronto, where um, covering the Blue Jays, which are awesome to watch right now, but in the really difficult years, and there was maybe a handful of people in a 60,000 person stadium, it's a long season. It's a lot of games.
Is that the
It's,
problem? The stadium we have is too big, right? Is that the
yes,
problem?
that's the problem for the Whitecaps. Yeah. If they
And
had a
and
place
and and
like,
baseball, same problem?
well, it definitely. So imagine the Kingdome in Seattle. That's
Hmm.
where the Mariners, the baseball team in Seattle, were playing, and going to a Mariners baseball game, like completely different to look at that versus watching an NFL game because it was built
Right.
for an NFL team. And
Mhm.
BC Place was really built for expo and Olympic ceremonies and jam packing. It's not even good for concerts. It's a bit of an elephant, and expensive
Yeah.
to keep running and expensive to get to and expensive to park around and like all those things. But
Hmm.
Kingdome, when it had the Mariners, Safeco Field was then built nearby that had a retractable roof and was
Right.
an open air stadium built for half the capacity. It was built to watch a baseball team play in, like Wrigley Field is. Like you go to some of these baseball ballparks and you feel why it's amazing. That you wouldn't feel that amazing feeling if a Major League Baseball team was playing in BC Place Stadium because you would
Right.
not be sitting there,
So far
save
away.
for opening day and maybe if you make the playoffs, maybe
Yeah.
a full stadium. And other than that, you're kind of like, it's echoing in here.
Hello? Hello?
Yeah, yeah,
Hello?
yeah.
Hello?
It's the
I just worry that
concept. It's great.
Vancouverites, I just worry that we're such a fickle town. If you ask anybody in the events industry, anybody in this industry, sun comes out, I'm not going to an event. No way, man.
Totally.
Sun comes out, I'm going to the event. It's like
Right.
we're so impulsive in how
Fickle.
we,
Fickle.
yeah, and we
Yes.
just kind of will just like make our decision, selling to, because I marketed for years in the event industry, and you literally like, oh God, if I could get to 30% pre-sales, it's a miracle. Because you just can't rely on Vancouverites to buy tickets until the day of. So if you can't make the budget work on a 30 to 40% sales, then you're probably not going to make money. And if anything above that, it's like, oh my God, we did it. So
Yeah.
I just worry about these sports teams having, and the Whitecaps being an example where they're saying we can't make money unless we can sell the pop of the peanuts and the popcorn at the kiosks. So, well, okay,
Right.
what
And
kind of
nobody's
business model
going,
is that? That's like
right.
very dangerous
A
business model.
$27 beer and an $18 hot dog and a $9 side of fries. Like, this is not,
They're not in the sports industry, they're in the food
no,
industry.
that's right. But going to a Canadians baseball, like we love a Canadians game. That's a
Sure.
destination. Like going and sitting in that ballpark, even on a not beautiful, perfect sunny day, you can have an awesome time at a Seas game. So if there was a way to do this, because there is a market for that, but you have to do it smart. And maybe if, as Gary Mason of the Globe and Mail is reporting, Ryan Reynolds is interested in investing in a Major League Baseball team, okay. Like sure, but shoehorning it into downtown next to BC Place and Rogers Arena, it's like,
And hey Ryan, we're way closer than Wales.
right, but isn't it
Come
odd
on
that he
up.
wouldn't save the Whitecaps? Like, why
Yeah,
wouldn't you stick with footy? I mean, maybe I guess he wants to
the
diversify his
money's not.
portfolio. I
Yeah.
love Ryan Reynolds. I do love that guy. I'd love for him to be involved, but he can also buy the Canucks.
Are they
Just
for
saying.
sale?
They're always for sale.
For God's sakes.
The price is never getting lower than it is right now, let me tell you.
Okay,
Finishing
I'll
last.
give them $5.
Oh, George. Oh, George. I
We
do
gotta get
have
off
one.
sports.
Well, I've got one more sports thing that I just want
Okay.
to squeeze in here, and I know it's a bit of a sad note, but I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the passing of my good friend John Garrett, much beloved Cheech, a former NHLer, an amazing individual, an incredible broadcaster who did color commentary for the Vancouver Canucks for years. He was ice level. He was hilarious. The people behind the scenes adored Cheech, love John Garrett, and sending all of our condolences to his family. He passed away suddenly just hours before game time, where he was going to be
Oh, wow.
covering the Utah Mammoth Vegas Golden Knights game. And you know what, George, just to give you perspective on how beloved John Garrett was, it's hard to talk about him in past tense. Um, they sent the entire crew home in the
Oh,
Stanley Cup playoffs because everybody was so shocked and devastated and needed to grieve. They just handed the whole uh, broadcast over from covering it with the Canadian crew to just airing the U.S.
really?
feed of it. Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
John Garrett will be very, 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 very sorely missed. So, not to end on an unhappy note, because of course this is a day that we are reborn here at UnSpun podcast, because we are now going to be found at sitkamedia.ca. That was a tough transition, but I had to do it because I was about to start to cry. And so, George, same handles for you and I on our social media. You're still going to be all over that Twitter at George
School.
underscore Affleck. I'm at Jody Vance, at Jody with a Y, Jody Vance, all one word. And you can follow along on Sitka Media on all of the social media platforms as well. Easy to share what we're bringing to the table on Unspun Podcast every week. Maybe we'll be writing some columns. There'll be other newsy folks that you might recognize joining our team because, yeah, we want to cut through the news noise and bring back people who have been like, I can't with this news cycle. Right?
Yes, and we are here for you every Thursday, unless we decide to take a vacation, which we will do.
I'm going to try and figure out my camera so it doesn't do this.
And I'll figure my mic out. My
Oh
God.
my God. What a day to be alive, George Affleck. We'll
Okay,
see you
whoa.
next week.
See you next week. Bye.
Bye.